Uh, hello. I'm so mad. I'm so mad. I'm so mad Isaac isn't here. Always late to the party? Yeah, I know. I guess as long as he shows up at some point, I guess I can't be too upset. He did say he didn't get that much sleep, even though this was all for him. But you know, I'm also super tired. To be fair, I had a weird night's sleep. I'm probably not going to stream for long because I need a nap so badly. And if anything, reading is just going to send me straight to bed. Although I guess that's kind of the vibe for like narration streams. I thought when I was like being like, oh, I'd like to do narration streams, I'd like to read books. I was like, I have never heard of anyone doing this. I mean, obviously people do it, but I've never seen it on like YouTube. But that was a lie. I remember being like 11 or 12 and watching a load of like creepypasta bad fan fiction narration channels. And they were always really fun because they were like these 20-minute long videos. I used to be able to just play them in the background while doing like whatever, like playing video games. And people are also really into like Audible, I guess. I'm always seeing Audible adverts on YouTube, so I guess there is a market for it, for people listening to people read books. But yeah, let's just jump right in. No need to hang around. Although again, I wish Isaac was here. I'm so sad. He's gonna show up in like the last 5 minutes and be like, yo, I fell asleep. Let me turn on Microsoft Edge. There we go. The text is kind of small. Hopefully you can still read it. I'll make myself small. Also, let me turn this. Oh, let me turn this down, actually. Oh, now it's too quiet. Turn that up. There, I guess? Like that? Make me smaller. Like down here. There we go. Let's just jump right in. I did do like a dry reading just by myself of like the first chapter or so. But I'm not entirely sure what to expect. I can smell the Audible sponsor coming when you're getting more popular. No, I will never do an Audible sponsor. Read the book yourself. It's not that hard. It's not that hard to find PDFs of books. At least of older ones. I was looking around for like books I wanted to read. I was looking for PDFs. Because I'm reading this on Microsoft Edge at the moment. And I was honestly kind of amazed how easily you can get like PDFs. I don't really like reading from PDFs. I don't really like reading on my desktop. I'll sometimes read on my phone. But yeah. Let's just go. Also, I'm going to fumble my words. Remember yesterday when I was like trying to read stuff in Skyrim and I was like, yeah, that's gonna happen. Inevitably. But if anything, it makes me quirky and charming. I can't read. Well, well, fine. I'll let you read, listen to, narrated books. I remember being like 10 and having a CD of a narrated reading of The Witches by Roald Dahl, and it was like my favorite thing. And I used to listen to it in the car during long car journeys. I'm such a hypocrite. Okay, let's go. Here is Edward Bear, coming downstairs now. Bump, 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 on the back of his head, behind Christopher Robin. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs, but sometimes he feels that there really is another way, if only he could stop bumping for a moment and think of it. And then he feels that perhaps there isn't. Anyhow, here he is at the bottom, ready to be introduced to you. Winnie the Pooh. When I first heard his name, I said, just as you were going to say, but I thought he was a boy. So did I, said Christopher Robin. Then you can't call him Winnie? I don't. But you said, he's Winnie the Pooh. Don't you know what the means? Ah yes, now I do, I said quickly. And I hope you do too, because it is all the explanation you are going to get. Sometimes Winnie the Pooh likes a game of some sort when he comes downstairs, and sometimes he likes to sit quietly in front of the fire and listen to a story. This evening, what about a story? Said Christopher Robin. What about a story? I said. Could you very sweetly tell Winnie the Pooh one? I suppose I could, I said. What sort of stories does he like? About himself, because he's that sort of bear. Oh, I see. So could you very sweetly? I'll try, I said. So I tried. Once upon a time, a very long time ago now, about last Friday, Winnie the Pooh lived in a forest all by himself under the name of Sanders. What does under the name mean? Asked Christopher Robin. It means he had the name over the door in gold letters and lived under it. Winnie the Pooh wasn't quite sure, said Christopher Robin. Now I am, said a growly voice. Then I will go on, said I. Say my name. I understand the reference. One day, when he was out walking, he came to an open place in the middle of the forest, and in the middle of this place was a large oak tree, and from the top of the tree there came a loud buzzing noise. Winnie the Pooh sat down at the foot of the tree, put his head between his paws, and began to think. First of all, he said to himself, that buzzing noise means something. You don't get a buzzing noise like that, just buzzing and buzzing, without its meaning in something. If there's a buzzing noise, somebody's making a buzzing noise, and the only reason for making a buzzing noise that I know of is because you're a bee. Then he thought another long time and said, and the only reason for being a bee that I know of is making honey. And then he got up and said, and the only reason for making honey is so that I can eat it. So he began to climb a tree. This is drying my throat out so quickly. I actually bought water with me today instead of Diet Coke to keep myself hydrated. Are you proud of me? There we go. He climbed and he climbed and he climbed. And as he climbed, he sang a little song to himself. It went like this. I don't know. I wonder if there's a melody to this. I'm sure there is in like the Disney adaptation, but I have no idea what it is. Isn't it funny how a bear likes honey? Buzz, buzz, buzz. I wonder why he does. Then he climbed a little further, and a little further, and then just a little further. By that time, he had thought of another song. It's a very funny thought that if bears were bees, they'd build their nests at the bottom of trees. And that being so, if the bees were bears, we shouldn't have to climb up all these stairs. He was getting rather tired by this time, so that is why he sang a complaining song. He was nearly there now, and if he just stood on that branch, crack! Oh, help, said Pooh as he dropped 10 feet on the branch below him. Very proud, super proud. Thank you so much. I'm staying hydrated. I'm a woman who drinks water. If only I hadn't, he said as he bounced 20 feet on to the next branch. You see, what I meant to do, he explained as he turned head over heels and crashed onto another branch 30 feet below. What I meant to do, of course it was rather, he admitted as he slithered very quickly through the next 6 branches. It all comes, I suppose, he decided, as he said goodbye to the last branch, spun around 3 times, and flew gracefully into the gorse bush. I don't know what a gorse bush is. It all comes of liking honey so much. Oh, help! He crawled out of the gorse bush, brushed the prickles from his nose, and began to think again, and the first person he thought of was Christopher Robin. Was that me? Said Christopher Robin in an awed voice, hardly daring to believe it. That was you. Christopher Robin said nothing, but his eyes got larger and larger, and his face got pinker and pinker. So Winnie the Pooh went round to his friend Christopher Robin, who lived behind a green door in another part of the forest. Good morning, Christopher Robin, he said. Good morning, Winnie the Pooh, said you. I wonder if you've got such a thing as a balloon about you. A balloon? Yes, I just said to myself coming along, I wonder if Christopher Robin has such a thing as a balloon about him. I just said it to myself, thinking of balloons and wondering. What do you want a balloon for? You said. Winnie the Pooh looked around to see that nobody was listening, put his paw to his mouth and said in a deep whisper, "Honey." "But you don't get honey with balloons." "I do," said Pooh. Ugh. Well, it just happened that you had been to a party the day before at the house of your friend Piglet, and you had balloons at the party. You had a big green balloon, and one of Rabbit's relations had a big blue one, and had left it behind, being really too young to go to a party at all, and so he had brought the green one and blue one home with you. "Which one would you like?" you asked Pooh. He put his head between his paws and thought very carefully. "It's like this," he said. "When you go after honey with a balloon, the great thing is not to let the bees know you're coming. Now, if you have a green balloon, they might think you were only part of a tree and not notice you. And if you have a blue balloon, they might think that you were only part of the sky and not notice you. And the question is, which is most likely?" "Wouldn't they notice you underneath the balloon?" you asked. "They might or they might not," said Winnie the Pooh. "You can never tell with the bees." He thought for a moment and said, "I shall try to look like a small black cloud. That will deceive them." "Then you had better have the blue balloon," you said, and so it was decided. Well, you both went out with the blue balloon, and you took your gun with you just in case, as you always did. Why does Winnie the Pooh have a gun? If it wasn't obvious, I've never read this. This was never my MO as a child. Just in case, as you always did. And Winnie the Pooh went to a very muddy place that he knew of and rolled until he was black all over. And then, when the balloon was blown up as big, and you and Pooh were both holding onto the string, you let go suddenly, and Pooh Bear floated gracefully up into the sky and stayed there, level with the top of a tree and about 20 feet away from it. "Hooray!" you shouted. "Isn't that fine?" shouted Winnie the Pooh down to you. "What do I look like?" "You look like a bear holding onto a balloon," you said. "No," said... "Not," said Pooh anxiously. "Not like a small black cloud in the sky, in a blue sky." "Not very much." Pooh has a gun. Yeah. Is this just what people in, like, Victorian England did? Did they have guns? Well, perhaps from up here it looks different. And as I say, you can never tell with bees. There was no wind to blow him nearer to a tree, so there he stayed. He could see the honey, he could smell the honey, but he couldn't quite reach the honey. After a little while, he called down to you. "Christopher Robin," he said in a loud whisper. "Hello. I think the bees suspect something." "What sort of thing?" "I don't know, but something tells me they're suspicious." You gotta be strapped. They had guns and covered themselves in mud. Not much to do in Victorian England. I mean, I guess at that point, people were starting to become more literate. But from what I can tell from most of my friends, you guys are all like, I hate reading, I hate books. So maybe they were also like that. Perhaps they think that you're after their honey. It may be that, but you never can tell with bees. There was another little silence, and then he called down to you again. "Christopher Robin." "Yes?" "Have you an umbrella in your house?" "I think so." "I wish you would bring it out here, and walk up and down with it, and look at me every now and then and say, 'Tut tut, it looks like rain.' I think if you did that, it would help the deception which we are practicing on these bees." Well, you laughed to yourself. Silly old bear. But you didn't say it aloud, because you were so fond of him, and you went home for your umbrella. "Oh, there you are," called down Winnie the Pooh as soon as you got back to the tree. "I was beginning to get anxious. I have discovered that the bees are now definitely suspicious." "Shall I put my umbrella up?" you said. "Yes, but wait a moment. We must be practical. The important bee to deceive is a queen bee. Can you see which is the queen bee from down there?" "No." "A pity. Well now, if you walk up and down with your umbrella saying, 'Tut tut, It looks like rain. I shall do what I can by singing a little cloud song, such as a cloud might sing. Go. So while you walked up and down and wondered if it would rain, Winnie the Pooh sang this song. How sweet to be a cloud, floating in the blue. Every little cloud always sings aloud. How sweet to be a cloud, floating in the blue. It makes him very proud to be a little cloud. The bees were still buzzing as suspiciously as ever. Some of them, indeed, left their nests and flew all around the cloud as it began the second verse of a song. And one bee sat down on the nose of the cloud for a moment, and then got up again. The bees are calling an emergency meeting. I get the reference. I get it. Mogus. Christopher, ow! Robin, called out the cloud. Yes? I've just been thinking, and I've come to a very important decision. These are the wrong sort of bees. Are they? Quite the wrong sort. So I should think they would make the wrong sort of honey, shouldn't you? Would they? Yes. So I think I shall come down. How? Asked you. Winnie the Pooh hadn't thought about this. If he let go of a string, he would fall. Bump. And he didn't like the idea of that. So he thought for a long time, and then he said, Christopher Robin, you must shoot the balloon with your gun. Have you got your gun? Of course I have, you said. But if I do that, it will spoil the balloon, you said. But if you don't, said Pooh, I shall have to let go, and that would spoil me. When you put it like this, you saw how it was. You aimed very carefully at the balloon and fired. Ow, said Pooh. Did I miss? You asked. You didn't exactly miss, said Pooh, but you missed the balloon. I'm so sorry, you said, and you fired again. And this time you hit the balloon, and the air came slowly out, and Winnie the Pooh floated down to the ground. But his arms were so stiff from holding onto the string of the balloon all the time that they had stayed up straight in the air for more than a week, and whenever a fly came and settled on his nose he had to blow it off. And I think, but I am not sure, and that is why he always that is why he was always called Pooh. What? I don't get it. That is why he was always called Pooh. I don't get it. If only Isaac was here to explain it to me. Hydration break. Reading is hard. I'm so used to I always read in my head. I never read out loud. Maybe when I was super young I read out loud, but... Is that the end of the story? Asked Christopher Robin. This bear has some attitude. He kind of does. In a way, Winnie the Pooh is like the embodiment of hedonism. He doesn't work. He's sort of like, he's very lazy and a little bit slow. But if anything, I guess that's why people like him so much, because he represents what everyone kind of wants to be, you know? At least, that's what I want to be. I want to sleep all day and eat all day. Is that the end of the story? Asked Christopher Robin. That's the end of that one. There are others. About Pooh and me, and Piglet and Rabbit and all of you. Don't you remember? I do remember, and then when I try to remember, I forget. That day when Pooh and Piglet tried to call the heffalump. They didn't catch it, did they? Oh. No. Pooh couldn't, because he hasn't any brain. Did I catch it? Well, that comes into the story. Christopher Robin nodded. I do remember, he said. Only Pooh doesn't very well. And that's why he likes having it told to him again. Because then it's a real story and not just a remembering. That's just how I feel, I said. Christopher Robin gave a deep sigh, picked his bear up by the leg and walked off to the door, trailing Pooh behind him. And the door turned and said, coming to see me have my bath. I might, I said. I didn't hurt him when I shot him, did I? Not a bit. He nodded and went out, and in a moment I heard Winnie the Pooh, bump, 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 going up the stairs behind him. Chapter 2, which Pooh goes visiting and gets into a tight place. Oh, I think I know this one at least. Edward Bear, known to his friends as Winnie the Pooh, or Pooh for short, was walking through the forest one day, humming proudly to himself. He made up a little hum for every morning as he was doing his stoutness exercises in front of his glass, tra-la-la-la-la, tra-la-la-la-la, as he stretched up as high as he could, and then tra-la-la-la, oh help! La, as he tried to reach his toes. After breakfast, he had said it over and over to himself until he had learnt it off by heart, and now he was humming it right through, properly. It went like this. Pooh has dementia. No! I mean, he literally doesn't have a brain. I guess he's sort of like, the Scarecrow. Wait, or was that a heart? Wait, no, that was the Tin Man. He's the Scarecrow from, Wizard of Oz. Tra-la-la-la-la, tra-la-la-la-la, rum-tum-tiddle-tum-out-tum, triddle... Tiddle-iddle, 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 rum-tum-tum, tiddle. I'm sure this has an actual melody, but I don't know it. Well, he was humming this hum to himself, and walking along gaily, wondering what everybody else was doing, and what it felt like being somebody else, when suddenly he came to a sandy bank, and in the bank was a large hole. Aha, said Pooh, open bracket, rum-tum-tiddle-tum, close bracket. If I know anything about anything, that hole means rabbit, he said, and rabbit means company, he said, and company means food, and listening to me humming, and such like. Rum-tum-tum-tiddle-um. So he bent down, put his head into the hole, and called out, Is anybody at home? There was a sudden scuffling noise from inside the hole, and then silence. What I said was, Is anybody at home? Called out Pooh very loudly. No, said a voice, and then added, You needn't shout so loud. I heard you quite well the first time. Bother, said Pooh. Is there anybody here at all? Nobody. Do you think the people on Audible, I'm sure there's probably a copy of this book on Audible, do you think they actually have to, like, do the singing parts? I hope so. Winnie the Pooh took his head out of the hole and thought for a little, and he thought to himself, there must be somebody there, because somebody must have said nobody. So he put his head back in the hole and said, Hello, Rabbit. Isn't that you? No, said Rabbit, in a different sort of voice this time. But isn't that Rabbit's voice? I don't think so, said Rabbit. It isn't meant to be. Oh, said Pooh. He took his head out of the hole and had another think, and then he put it back and said, Well, could you very kindly tell me where Rabbit is? He has gone to see his friend Pooh Bear, who is a great friend of his. But this is me, said Bear, very much surprised. What sort of me? Pooh Bear. Are you sure? Said Rabbit, still more surprised. Quite sure, said Pooh. Oh, well then, come in. So Pooh pushed and pushed and pushed his way through the hole, and at last he got in. You were quite right, said Rabbit, looking at him all over. It is you. Glad to see you. Who did you think it was? Well, I wasn't sure. You know how it is in the forest. One can't have anybody coming into one's house. One has to be careful. What about a mouthful of something? Pooh always liked a little something at 11 o'clock in the morning, and was very glad to see Rabbit getting out plates and mugs. And when Rabbit said, honey or condensed milk with your bread, he was so excited that he said, both. And then, so as not to seem greedy, he added, but don't bother about the bread, please. And for a long time after that he said nothing, until at last, humming to himself in a rather sticky voice, he got up, shook Rabbit lovingly by the paw, and said that he must be going on. Must you? Said Rabbit politely. Well, said Pooh, I could stay a little longer if you, and he tried very hard to look in the direction of the larder. As a matter of fact, said Rabbit, I was going out myself directly. Oh, well then, I'll be going on. Goodbye. Well, goodbye, if you're sure you won't have any more. Is there any more? Asked Pooh quickly. Rabbit took the covers off the dishes and said, no, there wasn't. I thought not, said Pooh, nodding to himself. Well, goodbye. I must be going. Poor Rabbit. Yeah. I don't think Rabbit was my favourite character, but he was probably up there. I think Eeyore was my favourite character. So he started to climb out the hole. He pulled with his front paws and pushed with his back paws, and in a little while his nose was out in the open again, and then his ears, and then his front paws, and then his shoulders, and then... "Oh, help!" said Pooh. "I'd better go back." "Oh, bother," said Pooh. "I shall have to go on." "I can't do either," said Pooh. "Oh, help and bother." Now by this time Rabbit wanted to go for a walk too, and finding the front door full, he went out by the back door and came round to Pooh and looked at him. "Hello, are you stuck?" he asked. "No," said Pooh carelessly, "just resting and thinking and humming to myself. Here, give us a paw." Pooh Bear stretched out a paw, and Rabbit pulled and pulled and pulled. "Ow!" cried Pooh. "You're hurting." "The fact is," said Rabbit, "you're stuck." "It all comes," said Pooh crossly, "of not having front doors big enough." "It all comes," said Rabbit sternly, "of eating too much." "I thought at the time," said Rabbit, "only I didn't like to say anything," said Rabbit, "that one of us was eating too much. And said Rabbit, "and I knew it wasn't me." He said, "Well, well, I shall go and fetch Christopher Robin." Christopher Robin lived at the other end of the forest, and when he came back with Rabbit, he saw the front half of Pooh. He said, "Silly old bear," in such a loving voice that everybody felt quite hopeful again. "I was just beginning to think," said Bear, sniffing slightly, "that Rabbit might never be able to use his front door again, and I should hate that," he said. "So should I," said Rabbit. "Look, there's too much repetition," said Rabbit, and I'm tripping over my words, because I read the first chapter. This is new territory for me. I don't actually know, I know what's going to happen, obviously, but I don't know the actual writing. "Use his front door again?" said Christopher Robin. "Of course he'll use his front door again." "Good," said Rabbit. "If we can't pull you out, Pooh, we might push you back." Rabbit scratched his whiskers thoughtfully and pointed out that when once Pooh was pushed back, he was back, and of course nobody was glad to see Pooh than he was. More glad to see Pooh than he was. Still, there it was. Some lived in trees and some lived underground, and... "You mean I'd never get out?" said Pooh. "I mean," said Rabbit, "that having got so far, it seems a pity to waste it." Christopher Robin nodded. "Then there's only one thing to be done," he said. "We shall have to wait for you to get thin again." "How long does getting thin take?" asked Pooh anxiously. "About a week, I should think. But I can't stay here for a week." "You can't stay here, all right, silly old bear. It's getting you out which is so difficult." "We'll read to you," said Rabbit cheerfully. "And I hope it won't snow," he added. "And I say, old fellow, you're taking up a good deal of room in my house. Do you mind if I use your back legs as a towel horse? Because, they are doing nothing. And it would be very convenient to just hang the towels on them." "A week," said Pooh gloomily. "What about meals?" "I'm afraid no meals," said Christopher Robin, "because of getting thin quicker, but we will read to you." Bear began to sigh, and then he found he couldn't because he was so tightly stuck. A tear rolled down his eye as he said, "Then would you read a sustaining book, such as would help and comfort a wedged bear in great tightness?" Oh, dogs are barking. Can you hear that? Rah, 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 rah. Rah, rah. I need a hydration break, actually. And a breath break. It's like weirdly making me out of breath. Again, I don't read out loud to myself. I only read in my head. Jeez, loud. So for a week, Christopher Robin read the sort of book at the north end of Pooh, and Rabbit hung his washing on the south end, and in between, Bear felt himself getting slenderer and slenderer, and at the end of the week, Christopher Robin said, "Now." So he took Pooh's front paws, and Rabbit took hold of Christopher Robin, and all Rabbit's friends and relations took hold of Rabbit, and they all pulled together, and for a long time Pooh only said "ow" and "oh," and then all of a sudden he said "pop," just as if a cork were coming out of a bottle. And Christopher Robin and Rabbit and all Rabbit's friends and relations went head over heels backwards, and on top of them came Winnie the Pooh, free! So with a nod of thanks to his friends, he went on with his walk through the forest, humming proudly to himself. But Christopher Robin looked over lovingly and said to himself, "Silly old bear." Are we Pooh right now? Yeah, actually. Yeah, I'm reading your book as you become thinner and thinner. Okay, I've been streaming for like half an hour. It's a lot harder than I thought it would be. This is like trading for when I if I ever have to babysit for like reading a book. I might just stop now. Isaac's not gonna come. Let me check Discord. Yeah, he's still offline. Okay, I think I'll probably stop. I'll probably stop now. Thank you for coming to my first narration stream. I'm actually kind of amazed I even last 35 minutes apparently. But if we ever decide to pick it up again, we are at chapter 3. Anything else? Oh, okay. I have so many books I do want to do. I really want to do like The Yellow Wallpaper and Animal Farm and probably like some H.P. Lovecraft, like the shorter ones that he wrote when he was still super young. But yeah. I'll see you all next week. Bye.